Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala ba'd. Testing 1, 2, 3. I think yesterday when I did the recording, my mic was on mute, and unfortunately I didn't realize that until after recording the whole thing. So I will not make that mistake, inshallah, today. My mic appears to be working fine, so I'm going to continue. Today, I'm going to do a summary of a surah in Juz 11, which is Surah Yunus, which is the 10th chapter in the Quran that is referring to the Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. I'm really excited. There's a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about all of it. So I'm just going to touch on a few things about Surah Yunus. It's a very, very beautiful and powerful surah with a lot of reason for people to understand whatever the message the Quran is bringing. So I'm just going to get right to it. Allah says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ أَلِفْ لَامْ رَا تِلْكَ آيَاتُ الْكِتَابِ الْحَكِيمِ. So Allah says, Alif Lam Ra. These are verses of Al-Kitab Al-Hakim. Now, it's interesting. Allah describes his book as wise. He says, these are verses from the wise book. It's strange to describe a book as wise. Usually you describe a person as wise. It's something that's unusual that Allah is doing here. He's describing his book as wise. He's going to talk about a lot of what the reason why he uses this word for describing his book in this surah. The beginning of the surah really sets the tone for the rest of the surah. So this beginning is very important to understand, to think about. So he says this book is a wise book. Now, when he calls it wise, what does wisdom actually mean? A lot of people don't understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So just in Arabic, a person that's wise is al-Hakim, and a judge is called al-Hakim, and it's related because a judge enacts laws appropriate for each person. So if one person deserves a certain verdict, and not another person, he would give one person the verdict and not the other person. So basically what hikmah means, what wisdom actually means, is putting things in their right place, giving things their due right, and assigning things properly. So one quote that I came across that really helped me understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. It's a really simple quote. It's knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in fruit salad. So if you think about that, if you were eating a fruit salad with, pineapples, pears, apples, peaches, and all of a sudden you bit into a tomato, that would completely throw you off. If a person was making the fruit salad and he thought he's really knowledgeable, he knows that a tomato is a fruit, he puts the tomato in the fruit salad. A wise person knows that the tomato doesn't belong there. So that's wisdom. Everything is purposeful and it's done appropriately. أكان للناس عجبا أن أوحينا إلى رجل منهم أن أنذر الناس وبشر الذين آمنوا أن لهم قدم صدق عند ربهم قال الكافرون إن هذا لساحر مبين. So Allah begins. He calls it a wise book because every ayah that is placed in this book is with wisdom for the ultimate purpose of the book, which is guiding mankind. So he begins with the thing that anyone reading this book would have a doubt with first. He addresses it head on, out of his wisdom. He said, is it strange for people that we reveal to a man from them that he should warn them about that he should warn them about whatever is coming, and to give glad tidings to the believers, to give them the good news. So most people, they find it strange and unbelievable that a man could receive revelation and message from God telling the people how they should act and what they should believe in, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. People find that strange. They're expecting something a lot more divine. They're expecting an angel to come down and to tell the people, this is how you're supposed to act, this is how you're not supposed to act. Or they're expecting God himself to come down and say and tell them, I'm your God and you must do this and that. So Allah is addressing this issue that people would have if they're reading this book. First of all, is it strange for people that a man comes and he's calling to exactly this? He's warning them of Allah's punishment, and he's also giving glad tidings to the people that decide, and he's giving them good news. If you decide to believe and do good deeds, then Allah will reward you. Your Lord will reward you. And you will have qadama sidqin inda rabbihim, means that you're going to have a secure footing, like a footing of truth, meaning you're going to get the reward from Allah, from your Lord, for doing whatever good you do. So Allah is addressing. He said when they hear this, they say that this is clear magic. There's no way that this could happen. Allah is addressing their problem with this very head on, and he's saying that this is actually nothing strange at all. And he's going to continue by explaining why it's not strange, by explaining the call that this Quran calls to. He says, إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يدبر الأمر ما من شفيع إلا من بعد إذنه ذلكم الله ربكم فاعبدوه أفلا تذكرون. So Allah here is reminding them about who he is. And this is why he's saying that this book is not really strange, because it's calling you to your Rabb, and he's reminding them who their Rabb actually is. Who is their Lord? Rabb in Arabic, most people translate to Lord, but Lord is a word that people that speak English don't really understand. They just hear it a lot, and I don't think people really understand it. Rabb has like a big meaning. It talks about Allah as the Lord, the one who takes care of all of his creation, the one who is the one that sets the laws for all of the creation. He regulates everything. He provides for all the creation. All of those meanings are encompassed in the word Rabb. So when I say Rabb, I choose to say that in this recording just to give that extra meaning. So just to put things in perspective. So he's reminding them now who he is. Who is this Rabb of yours? He's saying, indeed, your Rabb is Allah, the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then he rose on his throne. So Allah is already inviting us to look around the heavens as expansive as they are, and the earth as expansive as it is for us. And for us to realize that Allah created all of this in 6 days. Very calculated. He uses numbers here to show that everything that he does is very calculated. Not only did he do all of that, he didn't just do that and leave it. Allah follows this by saying, Yudabbirul amr, that he regulates all the affairs. So everything that he did is purposeful, and he takes care of all of it. He's regulating all of it. He's in charge of everything. Nothing happens in this world except by his permission. That's the point that Allah is making here. Then he's saying that there's no one that is an intercessor, excuse me, except by his permission. That is Allah, your Lord. So again, he's reminding them, that is Allah, your Rabb, your Rabb. Tough to switch between English and Arabic sometimes. Will you not remember? So Allah says something interesting. He says, won't you remember? So he's explaining himself, who he is, and he's saying, but you already know this. You have this inside of you, so I'm just reminding you of who I am. Will you not remember? That's the word that he used. I'm going to fast forward to a later part of the surah. And this is ayah 22, where Allah says, excuse me, هو الذي يسيركم في البر والبحر حتى إذا كنتم في الفلك وجرين بهم بريح طيبة وفرحوا بها جاءتها ريح عاصف So Allah is talking about in this verse of people when they are out at sea and everything is calm, the waves are fine, and all of a sudden harsh winds come out of nowhere, clouds appear out of nowhere, the waves start acting up, and people feel on the boat, while just seconds ago they felt so secure, now they feel like they're going to drown and they're going to all die. And they're in the middle of the ocean, they have nowhere else to go. So at that point, Allah says, when this happens, دَعَوُا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ لَإِنْ أَنْجَيْتَنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. They ask Allah sincerely, so they completely leave everything else behind. Whether they believed in Allah or they believed in other than Allah, they leave all that and they just turn to God alone and they ask Him, "Oh Allah, if you save us from this, then we will turn back to you and we'll worship you." This actually happened with me and my family. We were rafting once a few summers ago, and the weather was beautiful, like not a cloud in the sky. One of the most beautiful days, mashallah. So we went around like 4 o'clock. Sunset's like at 7:30 or so at the time. So we're out rafting, and my family, no one in my family has rafted before, and we were just rafting on the river, very calm, like maybe like 2 miles an hour, very, very slow. And all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, like wallahi, I wish if you were there, you would only if you're there, you would really understand it. Out of nowhere, clouds came, the wind picked up like crazy, and they started to be lightning also. So it started to rain very heavy, completely out of nowhere. The waves started picking up, and the current felt like it was going faster. We had no control. We couldn't move the boat anywhere because of the wind pushing against us, and we started to get very scared. And everyone on the boat completely flipped, like they became as if they were different people. Everyone started making dua, like instinctively. Now, yes, we're all Muslim, but just seeing that, seeing the flip in everyone at that time was something that was very powerful for me, and it resonates with this ayah. So experience is what you really need to really understand this ayah, but Allah is saying that because He wants us to realize that deep down, every single human being has this innate belief in a Rabb. They believe in a higher power. They believe that there is Allah, there is a God. And that's why when they're in that desperate situation where they have no way out, they return to Him. So that's what, going back to the beginning of Surah Yunus, that's what Allah is talking about when He says, أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Will you not remember? Because He knows it's in you and you just have to remember it. He's reminding you. That's what this surah is all about. Kitab al-Hakim. This is a book that's wise. Every single ayah is structured and placed to make you remember about your Rabb. إليه مرجعكم جميعا وعد الله حقا إنه يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات بالقسط والذين كفروا لهم شراب من حميم وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون. Then Allah is saying, He said before that He created the heavens and the earth in 6 days and He regulates all the affairs, so He spread everything out. Now He's saying, I will return all of it back. So He's saying everything will come back. All of you will come back. Then He says, وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقًّا. He says that the promise of Allah is true. Why does He mention promise here? And what's the value of mentioning promise? Because we hear all of this about Allah is the Rabb, Allah is the one that takes care of everything, He provides for everything, and He is the one that regulates all the affairs. And then we see a lot of chaos in the world. We see people doing crazy things. We see people committing murder. We see people oppressing other people. We see a lot of injustices happening. And a lot of people think, why? If there really is a Rabb, why is this all happening? If He really is the one that regulates all of the affairs. Allah is making a promise here that every single thing will be returned to Him so that there will be no injustices at all. So this is why Allah is making a clear promise. He's promising that, yes, you might see some injustice happening in this world, but it will all return to me and I will take care of all of it. And we just have to trust Allah with that. So that's why it's His promise here. He's the one that starts the creation, then He returns it. So that way He can reward those who do good deeds and with justice. And for those who don't believe, then for them is hot scalding water and a painful punishment. والذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا وقدره منازل لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون إن في اختلاف الليل والنهار وما خلق الله في السماوات والأرض لآيات لقوم يتقون. So Allah mentions in these next two verses more of His exactness and wisdom for everything that He did. Excuse me. He says He is the one that made the sun as a diya, like a bright, glowing, shining light, and the moon as a light, like a nura, like a glowing light. وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلٍ. So subhanAllah, Allah is saying that He measured the stages of this moon and the sun. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. So everything is purposeful and with His wisdom. Allah is mentioning these creations because this whole beginning is themed on the first ayah, which is about the wisdom behind Allah and everything that He does and everything that He creates. So Allah is mentioning His creations, the sun and the moon, and He explains why He put the sun and the moon there. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. So that way you can know how to account for the days and the months. So you can keep track of things. Today, even today, after all of our technological advances, we still rely on the sun and the moon to keep track of our days. It's been something that mankind has used since the beginning of time, and it's something that Allah put in place, so He's reminding us of that He is the one that put this in place purposefully, not by accident, with an exact specified purpose. And just like that, Allah is putting these verses in this order exactly with a specified purpose. Everything is done with measure. SubhanAllah. ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق. So Allah is again emphasizing He didn't create all this except in truth. So there's a purpose behind everything that He made. It's not like some say that He just made things just for the sake of making things. He didn't do that. He has purpose and reason and wisdom, which is the key word here, behind everything that He does. Even then Allah sums it up in that verse. He says, إِنَّ فِي اخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah is summarizing whatever signs He talked about or whatever creations He talked about. He said the alteration between night and day, which is caused by the sun and the moon, which He just talked about, and whatever's in the heavens and the earth. So Allah also talked about Him creating the heavens and the earth. Allah is now bringing our attention back to that, all of those things that He mentioned. He's saying all of these are signs. They're signs which point us in the direction of Allah. That's the point of these things. So the point of mentioning all of these is not just to mention them for the sake of mentioning them. It's to point us back in the direction of our Rabb. That's the point. So that's why it's signs for the people that have taqwa. إن الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا ورضوا بالحياة الدنيا وطمأنوا بها والذين هم عن آياتنا غافلون أولئك مأواهم النار بما كانوا يكسبون. So Allah is calling to attention some people that they just are heedless about the verses of Allah. They just don't want to hear them. Heedless means you don't take heed, so you don't want to listen. You just someone's warning you about something, and you're like, whatever. I don't really care about that. Let me just deal with my own life, and who cares about that? You just have a whatever attitude. Allah is addressing that. He says that for those people that don't hope for our لا يرجون لقاءنا, that they don't hope for meeting us, and they're just satisfied with this world, and they're ghafil. They're heedless. Then for them, they're gonna pay the price for it. Allah says that you can't just be like have a whatever attitude and expect nothing to happen because of that. There will be something that will happen as a result of that. So Allah is saying that and making it very clear, for whatever people earn, they will get. Then He also says, إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات يهديهم ربهم بإيمانهم تجري من تحتهم الأنهار في جنات النعيم. He says that those who believe and do righteous deeds, then Allah will guide them by their faith. Because they have their faith, Allah will guide them. And where is He guiding them? What's the purpose of all this? It's so beautiful what Allah says in the next ayah. دعواهم فيها سبحانك اللهم وتحيتهم فيها سلام وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. So Allah is guiding them to Jannah, to gardens, where the call will be Subhanak, to glorifying Allah, the Rabb, that He just described Himself, who He is, the one who created all these things. When you look around you, you see the majesty of the mountains, you see the beautiful creation that Allah has put in the heavens and the earth. You look out at the stars, you see how far they are, you see how precise Allah has put everything, how the stars can be a guide for navigation in the middle of the sea, how Allah put the sun over there and the moon over there, and all these different signs that show different qualities of Allah, the gentleness uh, in a stream, or the harshness of a waterfall, or anything, any of these creations of Allah, reminding them of Him, makes the heart yearn to meet the one who made all this. It's just like you see something that's so amazing, you just really want to meet the person that did all this. It's just so incredible. It's just like, whenever you see anything that amazes you, like if you watch a movie that really amazes you, you think that the plot was impeccable, like it was really like very, very purposeful. You're just very excited to know who that director is, and who came up with this, and who was able to pull it all together so it looks to you like something beautifully orchestrated. That's how it is. That's what Allah is talking about. That when people look at His signs and they really think about them, then they will desire to see Allah and to be with Him. And Allah is saying that this book, this wise book, is guiding people to that eventual meeting with Him, so that way they can be with Him and see Him and stay with Him. And that's why when talking about the opposite side that don't believe, He says they don't hope for meeting with us. So that's the difference. And I'm going to end with just two more ayat that go along this point, which is the wisdom behind these verses guiding the people to Allah. والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. So Allah is saying that He, and this is later on, this is in ayah 25, I fast forwarded a little bit, that Allah is saying that He is guiding you. These verses in this book is guiding you, and Allah is calling you with this book to Dar es Salam. He's calling you to the home of peace. It's peace. And Allah guides whoever He wills to a straight path. Then He says, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً, that for those who do good is the best. Al-Husna meaning the best, that they will have the best. And the best is beyond whatever we can imagine and whatever we know, because we don't know what the best is. Not only do we not know what the best is, Allah just gives us descriptions of what Jannah is, but Allah says you will get the best, waziyada, and you will get more than that. So that's why the Sahaba didn't understand what is ziyada, what can be more than the best. And the Prophet ﷺ explained that ziyada is referring to seeing Allah. So subhanAllah, this whole surah is very beautifully themed around reminding people about who their Rabb is, reminding them of who He is and how beautiful and majestic He is. And ultimately, with wisdom, Allah is guiding people to desire meeting their Rabb because they forgot, and Allah is reminding them that this is actually who your Rabb is. You just forgot. And when people remember, they'll desperately want to meet Him. And Allah is saying, well, if you want to desperately meet you, then you will. For those who do good is the best, and more is meeting Allah. So may Allah make us of those who meet Him, and may Allah bless us to use this Ramadan in the best way, so that way we can benefit the most from it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Tomorrow I will be doing just just 12, excuse me. I may re-record the previous recording that no one was able to hear because I was on mute. So I'm gonna inshallah re-record that when I get a chance. That was on Surah Al-Anfal, which is a completely different subject than what we talked about today. But inshallah tomorrow will be just 12. Jazakumullah khairan.